Hey guys, I'm glad you're here. Gee, it sure is nice being back in my office. Now, I've been out of my office for the past 2 months taking care of some family things overseas. Took the opportunity to do some adventuring and some ranch hand work while I was there. But boy, I sure am glad to be back in my studio where I can focus full time on developing and shipping my upcoming games. We'll also return to the regular uploads. Usually I upload an episode 5 or 6 days a week, and I'm so glad that I can hang out here with you guys again and focus on the games. So I want to discuss the Nintendo Switch 2's new Boost mode. If you had not heard yet, this is a new mode which Nintendo has added to the Switch 2 in the recent update for the system. Now, the Boost mode allows Switch games for the original Switch to run in handheld mode, but at a higher resolution. Now, how does it achieve this? I had suspected that Nintendo may have implemented this. I thought they could potentially achieve this, but I had seen other people saying, oh, well, they'll just change the emulator that the Switch is running on. They'll change it so that it runs at a higher resolution in handheld mode. And I'm very careful about what information I discuss because I am a developer for Nintendo and I am beholden to NDA. But I had suspected that what Nintendo would have done to achieve this is exactly how they did it. In handheld mode, they have added an option to where you can tell the game that, oh, it's running in docked mode. So basically, the Switch 2 is tricking the Switch game into thinking that you are playing the game in docked mode, and that allows the games to run at higher resolution. Now, the reason why it could not work and would not work if you just changed the resolution, you just brute force and told it to run at a different resolution, is the games are dependent on the docked or handheld mode in order to implement resolution logic. There is no universal resolution logic because developers can actually control the rendering resolution and the internal rendering resolution for different components of the game. The gameplay, the heads-up display, those can be rendered at different resolutions, and those are all hard-coded, and you cannot just say, oh, you have to render at this resolution now. It's not going to work because the developers actually have the control. So I didn't want to say that people had no idea what they were talking about when they were saying, oh, just change the rendering resolution. But that is why that approach would not work, to just say, oh, you have to run at this, because the developers actually control the resolution themselves. So I'm going to share some comparison video here. I'm going to show a comparison with one of my titles, that is Silver Falls Episode Prelude. This is the worst game that I've made. It's the worst game that I've shipped. The other games that I've made are just better. I did my best while developing this, but it falls short of my expectations and what I wanted for this game. But it allows us to see an example of what I'm discussing here. During gameplay with Silver Falls Episode Prelude, you can press the minus button to toggle seamlessly between 3 modes. You have best graphics, balanced, and best performance. And in best performance, the internal rendering resolution is reduced significantly, and this takes some of the rendering cost away from the GPU. It makes the game significantly cheaper to render when I reduce the internal rendering resolution. The resolution is flexible here, and it changes based on whether the game is in docked mode or handheld mode. In handheld mode, you can drop the resolution down hugely significantly, but that allows you to get much better performance. On Switch 2 hardware, the game runs very smoothly, but on the original Switch, in handheld mode, the game can run rough in handheld mode if you put the game in best graphics mode. So I added that to where you can just shave that resolution right on down. You can see it's noticeable on heads-up display elements, which is why I gave people the freedom to just toggle through those resolution modes as needed. There is no universal code that they could put into an emulator to make the game just forcefully rendered at a higher resolution unless there was some magical brute force thing. And it's something that you would see in unofficial emulators, you know, where the developers of those unofficial emulators can just, it's the Wild West, they do whatever they want. But because this is running on official hardware, Nintendo has to have the game run the way that developers intended. So you can see the comparison between the boost mode turned on and turned off, and it's hugely noticeable. I masked a lot of the pixelation through the way that I developed the post-processing stack, the way that I implemented those in the order. It's very specific, so it hides much of the pixelation, but it is still noticeable, especially on heads-up display elements. Next, we'll take a look at The Witcher, and this is a situation where I'm a little bit jelly. I'm jelly at how gorgeous the game looks. The developers did a brilliant job. I believe what they've done in handheld mode, well, it's overall, but in handheld mode, it is noticeable because when you turn off boost mode, the game still looks smooth. It looks really, really great, which to me tells me that they have implemented a fantastic solution for anti-aliasing or anti-aliasing, whichever side of that fence you live on. And The Witcher looks brilliant. So this is a situation where the boost mode doesn't really give that much of a noticeable difference. There are other things as well that developers can implement that are dependent on whether the game is running in docked mode or handheld mode. For example, you can have the games change their quality settings. The shadow resolution can be reduced. You can disable certain screen effects post-processing so that the game has a lower rendering cost when in handheld mode, and that those visual effects will only be at a higher quality or only be enabled in docked mode. That is something that we will see vary from game to game because that kind of implementation comes down to the developers themselves. If we take a look at Batman Arkham Knight, and you can see it's a bit noticeable on the title screen here. In gameplay, there is a degree of anti-aliasing, but we can see the comparison between boost mode on and boost mode off. Lastly, we will take a look at Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity. And this is one that I think is quite noticeable. So with Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity, the developers implemented a similar solution to what I showed with Silver Falls Episode Prelude, and that is in handheld mode, I reduced the internal rendering resolution significantly. That reduces the rendering costs. It allows the game to maintain some performance, some frames per second, but Age of Calamity always struggled on the original Switch. It runs significantly better. It's playable. It's absolutely playable on Switch 2. I will never play Age of Calamity on the original Switch again. I will play that on Switch 2. But let's take a look at the comparison. You can see how much lower the internal rendering resolution is with boost mode off and boost mode on. And with boost mode on, the resolution that we see on the screen is the same that we would see in docked mode. It may not be 1080, I know it's not 1080, the internal rendering resolution, because the game would run significantly worse even so. Now, if the developers updated this game to take into account the Switch 2 hardware, if it could specifically check for the Switch 2, it could then run at a higher resolution. It could run at native 1080, it could run at native 4K. But the developers would have to update the game with the new software development kit that takes into account the Switch 2, and they have not done that. They've been busy making other games. Koei Tecmo is very, very busy with other games. This is a situation where we can see that some games benefit more. Some games benefit significantly more and noticeably more. For example, with Silver Falls Episode Prelude, Hyrule Warriors, it's quite noticeable. Batman Arkham Knight is somewhat less noticeable because even in docked mode, the resolution is quite low, but The Witcher is a situation where it's not really that noticeable because The Witcher, that is so optimized and specialized for the original Switch. They've done a brilliant job, so I'm a little bit jelly that they were able to get their game looking so fantastic and running well. on Switch. So those are my thoughts on the boost mode. I'm very glad to see it. Nintendo did implement it exactly the way that I expected they would, and I'm glad that they've done that. But for the games where the developers did have to lower the internal rendering resolution, such as what we see with Silver Falls Episode Prelude and Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, having that boost mode does make a significantly more noticeable benefit to the overall graphics and presentation. Those are my thoughts. I hope that you enjoyed hearing my analysis of the boost mode. I think it's fun to turn it on and off and to see you can turn it on and off freely and it shouldn't affect the game. The only game that I've seen problems is Batman Arkham Knight. That crashed while I flipped back and forth. Anyway, if you're enjoying boost mode or if you've got thoughts on that, I'd be interested in hearing from you. I'm very glad to be back in my office so I can focus on my game development. Thanks for spending some time with me. Take care of yourselves. Be well.